Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Now redubbed by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Today, I have the finale to the Jedi Apprentice series, and you know me if you are a subscriber. If not, maybe you should hit that subscribe button. But if you are, and you've been watching my Jedi Apprentice series, then you know that I am a stickler about chronology, so I also have the first half of some special editions that focus primarily on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan before the second half switching over to Anakin and Obi-Wan, which of course we'll read at a future time. Though I will say, if you don't care about doing it strictly chronologically, you can just as easily, when I get to those stories in the future, just read the past and the present in that one sitting. And then also, I have a short story by James Luceno. So that is about where we're at today. So, Book 17, The Only Witness. So there's a whole plot going on. If it was a video game, I would call it a side quest. I don't really have any spoilers sections for this particular book. The overall story is simple, but the thing going on primarily throughout it is mourning. Qui-Gon is mourning the death of Tal. And so that's primarily the biggest character thing going on in this book. The story within it is fairly standard. It's not a horrible story. It's not a grand story. It's just a story, to give us an excuse to have another adventure with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. But the selling point of it is getting to see more of Qui-Gon and how he deals with the loss of someone he loved. We get to Book 18, The Enemy Within, the final book in the Jedi Apprentice main series without the special editions. The planet that they go to, and I only knew this because of Matt Wilkins' video, it is a planet, the alien race, a place from the old Marvel comics. So that's a cool connection. And again, I know Matt Wilkins has said this, but it's good to be restated. This is a young adult novel. This was sold, or this wasn't, sold. It was Scholastic, right? Where you go to school and you go to the library and you have all these books on sale. They do it, for Scholastic. These are primarily for kids in school. So why go through the extra effort of putting in some random planet from another source? Because these authors, these people, they cared about continuity and they enjoyed adding stuff because they knew losers like me, losers like Matt Wilkins, and other people would, that are adults, would buy these books too. Maybe if they had kids, they'd be like, we're going to buy 2 copies of these, one for my kid, one for myself, because I want them too. They didn't have to do that, but they did. And again, with the overall story, it's fairly standard. It's a decent story, focusing on these two, the young people on this planet and the older people, and conflicts arising there. It's nothing particularly special, but we do get to see in this book that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are becoming more equals, more of the team that we see in Episode 1. And that's pretty much it. That's where we kind of end the Jedi Apprentice series. Though, of course, if you go to the first half of the special edition, Secrets of the Jedi, which, of course, the first half is Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, second half, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. Anyway, so with that, let's see about that. So one thing I wanted to mention, because I don't think it really gets mentioned when this is talked about, that there is, they mention a lot in this story, the Corporate Alliance. The Corporate Alliance, I don't know if it was created in the Brian Daley novels, but for sure, it's definitely a big part of the Brian Daley Han Solo novels, because the corporate sector is that part of space where The Empire's kind of letting them do their thing, but it's still like this antagonistic force, because it's the corporate alliance, from my understanding, is it's literally like you're having a bunch of businesses that have their own private armies, which I know my friend Justin would love, with this whole thing with Eighth, which if you want to know more about that, you would go to Magneto GC. But he made a story that kind of had a company with its own private army. And anyway, but so I just thought that was really cool that, we're having a little Brian Daly references. I don't know if it's specifically a Brian Daly reference, but the corporate alliance is really interesting thing that, I only really scratched the surface in the Brian Daly trilogy, so I'm curious if any novels in the future, anything will go more in depth with the corporate alliance and how that kind of works. And then really the only spoiler I have for this, though it's not really a spoiler if you know things about the EU, the book primarily focuses on Ciri and Obi-Wan, who have been friends for most of the Jedi Apprentice series. Let's just say some things develop between Ciri and Obi-Wan. And that's pretty much all I have to say for that. It's probably going to be a much shorter video than a lot of the other ones. And then we have Darth Maul Restraint, a short story by James Luceno. Now, if you hate the Clone Wars 2008 series, you'd probably hate this short story, and I can't recommend it to you. You'll probably want to skip out on it. If you don't mind TCW, or in fact you even love TCW, then I can highly recommend this short story. Even if you're 50-50, kind of like me with the Clone Wars, I still think this novel this short story is really pretty good. We get to see a bit into Maul's mind. I know we have Maul in the Clone Wars TV show, but here this is before episode 1. This is him younger. This is him at I think 15, which I guess that means he's 3 years younger than Obi-Wan. But here we get to have, a little bit insight. Not too much, but a little bit of insight into how Darth Maul thinks and whatnot, and his frustrations with. Because the whole thing is, it begins with one big giant test. He must, fight off against this Mandalorian and these other bounty hunter type figures without using the Force. Because Maul is being trained to kind of be this assassin-like figure for Sidious, but he needs him to be able to not use the Force, because if he uses the Force, he can cause attention for Palpatine. So he needs him to be able to fight and do all this stuff without relying on the Force. However, the biggest thing here with the TCW kind of connection is that Mother Talzin finds out about Darth Maul and tries to capture him, take him back home. What's interesting is Darth Maul, throughout the entire thing, seems to think that this is all a test by Sidious, because Sidious is all he's ever known. Sidious, at the very end, deals with the matter personally. He shows up and he says, "You cannot have them. You cannot have Maul. He is mine." And sensing the power that Sidious has, they bolt. But remember, Darth Plagueis is still alive right now. And Sidious is telling Maul about, this grand plan. He's not giving him too many details because he has to become his apprentice before he can have the privilege of knowing the full extent of the plan. But I just found that really cool. The whole short story take a half hour to read without interruptions. It's actually really good, though, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the scenes. My favorite scenes, mainly, the TCW stuff is okay. The stuff that really was great was getting to see Sidious, just talk with Maul and get, a little bit more of that relationship. So I really enjoyed that. Lastly, what we have, of course, you don't have to do this. I will, again, review it later with the second half dealing with Obi-Wan and Anakin, and if you want to just read it all, then you can. But since I'm a stickler for chronology, what you would read last is Jedi Apprentice, the first half, The Followers. Basically, I don't really have spoilers for this. The overall plot for the first half of it that focuses with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon deals with the long-headed neck dudes, the Quimerians. There's a professor, and he's really obsessed with the Sith and everything, and he wants to find this Sith holocron. That is non-spoiler wise. That's what goes on. Of course, the guy is captured by the end, but the Sith holocron is not found. So I imagine that will come back up with Anakin and Obi-Wan. But only other thing I have to mention with this that I found actually pretty interesting, Kit Fisto is the new master for Bant. Bant being the Mon Calamari friend of Obi-Wan's since childhood. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, overall, if we're including the first half of the special editions with, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and just all 18 Jedi Apprentice series as a whole, I really enjoyed it. I thought the series was absolutely fantastic. It gave us more insight into Qui-Gon, and then, insight into how Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's relationship worked. I think by the end of the series, you can clearly tell they have very much like a father-son sort of relationship going on. Whereas, you can feel that when Obi-Wan and Anakin are together, it's a very different vibe. Very, very different. So I'll be curious to see the stark contrast with that when we get, and the similarities, when we get to Jedi Quest down the road, which is written by the same author, Jude Watson, but just changes it. Now Obi-Wan will be the one in charge, and now now we got Anakin. So that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But yeah, Jude Watson, you did a phenomenal job. Dave Wolverton started this journey, but Jude Watson carried it to the finish. So thank you, Jude Watson, for all the wonderful things that you've done for us in the expanding universe. And if the expanding universe ever gets continued, I have a few ideas for what I would like her to come back for if she'd be down, which, that would be cool. Dooku and Qui-Gon being number one, though. That needs to happen. But yeah, it's been fun. Thank you all so much for watching. Up next, we have probably a couple more short stories, 2 comic series focusing on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, a couple of Star Wars tales, and then I'm going to take a small break. I'm going to read Dune, review that for you guys, then go back to the EU, starting with Jedi Council Acts of War. So I hope you're all excited for that, and until next time, guys, may the Force be with you.